In 1923, a Sicilian mother on Elizabeth Street fed 6 children on what her husband could spare. He laid brick for $20 a week. 4 of those dollars sailed back to his mother in Palermo every Friday. Rent on 2 rooms took 6 more. That left $10 to feed 8 people in the most expensive city in America. She never missed a meal. Her children grew tall on bones, greens, and bread other families threw away. Neighbors called her lucky. She was not lucky. She ran a kitchen the way a banker runs a vault, and almost nothing she knew was ever written down. They did not budget. They calculated survival, meal by meal. Every cent had a job before it was earned. Every scrap had a second life before it was thrown out. These mothers fed whole families on wages that should have starved them. We inherited the recipes and lost the arithmetic. Somewhere between their tenements and our kitchens, we decided cheap food was shameful. We started paying strangers to feed us what they fed us for pennies. And we called the trade progress. Number 14 fed 8 people on a cut of meat that cost 11 cents. Number 9 sat on every fire escape in Little Italy, and not one landlord ever guessed it was feeding the building. And number 1, the rule these women enforced before rent, before church, before the money sent home. It is the same principle nutritionists write whole books about today. She ran it on instinct and never wrote a word. These 30 tricks were not about being poor. They were about refusing to let poverty win. They were the difference between a child who went to school fed and one who did not. Quiet women doing the hardest math in America, where no one thought to look. Hit that subscribe button. Let us count down the 30 vanished money tricks Italian mothers used to keep their children fed in New York in the 1920s. Number 30. The pushcart closing hour. The cheapest produce in New York. By 8 in the evening, peddlers on Mulberry Street wanted their carts empty. Bruised tomatoes, wilting greens, soft figs, half price, sometimes a penny a pound. She shopped last, never first. A nickel bought what a dime bought at noon. For a mother of 6, this was not bargain hunting. It filled the pot when the budget said thin. Every immigrant block knew its peddlers and their hours. The carts emptied into the pots of women who waited. She paid for the leftovers. She fed more on them. Number 29, the butcher's bones, the richest food on the block, given away for nothing. The butcher saved marrow bones and trimmings, he said, for the dog. She asked for them by name. A few cents, often free, into the pot with an onion and beans. A pound made a gallon of broth that fed the table 2 days. The children drank brodo and called it dinner. Once it was the part the rich threw out. Cucina povera built whole cuisines from what others threw out. The bone cost nothing. The strength it gave was free. Number 28, bread made new, the loaf that refused to die. Yesterday's bread went hard by morning. She threw away none of it. Stale slices soaked in oil became a meal. Crusts ground to crumbs stretched the meatballs. An 8-cent loaf fed the family 3 ways across 4 days. Hard bread was not waste in her kitchen. It was tomorrow's dinner waiting. Southern Italy had 100 dishes built on stale bread. The bread went hard. The mother grew harder and wasted nothing. Number 27, the fire escape garden. A farm the size of a windowsill. Basil, tomatoes, and peppers grew in cans and broken crates on the railing. A penny packet of seeds returned a summer of flavor. Tomatoes growing 4 flights above the street. For a mother far from her village, the garden was a piece of Sicily growing in the soot of Manhattan. Across Little Italy, fire escapes bloomed every June. The railing held the laundry. It also held the harvest. Number 26, pasta from flour and water. The cheapest full belly in New York. A pound of flour cost a nickel. Mixed with water and cut on the table, it became macaroni for the whole family. Store pasta cost 3 times as much. Hers cost the flour and an hour of her hands. The children turned the crank and thought it was play. It was the family eating for pennies. The rolling pin crossed the ocean in her hands. Flour, water, and work. From that, she fed an army. Number 25, The Grocer's Libretto. The little book that kept the family eating between paydays. The corner grocer kept a credit book for trusted families. She bought on the tab when money ran thin, then cleared it on payday. Never more than she could settle. Never a cent of interest, because the grocer was paisano, not a bank. A good name at the grocer's was the only credit a poor woman had. The libretto ran every immigrant grocery in the city. Trust was the collateral. The book was paper. Her word made it money. Number 24, the Sunday gravy, 1 pot of sauce that fed the family 7 days. Sunday morning she browned a little meat, a 30-cent piece, a sausage, the bones, in a great pot of tomatoes. Sunday it dressed the macaroni. Monday it sauced the bread. By Friday the last of it flavored a soup. The smell filled the stairwell. 1 small cut of meat perfumed a week of meals. The Sunday gravy was the heartbeat of every Italian home. She cooked it once. It fed them for 7 days. Number 23, dandelion greens from the lot. Free vegetables in the cracks of the city. She knew which weeds were food. Dandelion, chicory, purslane, pulled from empty lots, washed hard, sautéed with garlic and oil. A bunch of greens at the cart cost a nickel. Hers cost nothing but the walk and the bending. Passers-by saw weeds. She saw a side dish the budget could not buy. In Italy, the women had always gathered wild greens. The city called them weeds. Her family called them dinner. Number 22, the cracked egg basket. Good food sold cheap for a flaw that did not matter. The grocer could not sell a cracked egg at full price. He sold them by the basket for half. She used them that day in frittata and pasta, where the crack made no difference once it hit the pan. 20 cents bought a dozen worth 40. She was not buying broken eggs. She was buying the same egg, minus the price of perfection. Pushcart and grocer alike moved damaged goods cheap to women who used them fast. The shell was cracked. The savings were whole. Here is what the history books leave out. When these families arrived, the city saw only poverty. Crowded rooms, strange food, children in made-over clothes. What it did not see was the engineering. A mother feeding 8 on the wages of 1 ran a system more disciplined than most businesses of her day. She had no safety net, no insurance, no rights worth the name. If the money failed, no one was coming. So she built a kitchen that could not fail. Every bone used, every crust saved, every weed turned into a meal. We remember the immigrants as people who had nothing. We forget they were people who wasted nothing. And the difference was a mother who never let the city watch her count. Number 21, olive oil from the barrel. The staple bought the way the old country sold it. The importer kept oil in barrels and sold it by the can you carried in. Buying loose cost far less than bottled oil on the shelf. She brought her own tin. A gallon this way saved $1 over grocery price. Oil was the foundation of her cooking, and she refused to overpay for it. The barrel trade ran through every import house downtown. She bought it by the barrel. She cooked with it by the drop. Number 20, the fish head broth. A feast from what the fishmonger swept off the table. On Fridays, the fishmonger had heads and frames left when the fillets sold. He gave them away or sold them for pennies. She simmered them into a broth, then a stew with pasta. A few cents fed the table on a meatless Friday. The children ate brodo di pesce and thought it grand. It was built from the parts the fillet buyers left behind. Coastal Italy had cooked this way forever. Nothing from the sea was wasted. The head cost pennies. The dinner cost almost nothing. Number 19. Coffee stretched with chicory. The cup that lasted twice as long. Coffee was dear, 40 cents a pound and climbing. She ground roasted chicory root into it, half and half. The pot tasted strong, and the bag lasted twice as many weeks. Chicory cost a fraction of the bean. Her husband drank it black every morning and never named the difference. The poor everywhere had stretched coffee with chicory for a century. The cup was full. The coffee was half. He never knew. Number 18, the conserva. 18, the conserva, the summer work that fed the family all winter. In August, tomatoes flooded the carts and dropped to pennies a bushel. She bought crates, cooked them down, and put up jars of sauce and paste. By October, the shelf held a winter of gravy. The work was brutal in the summer heat. February tomatoes cost 4 times as much as August tomatoes. Every block held canning days. The cellar was the family's grocery. She bought the summer cheap. She ate it all winter. Number 17, the courtyard trade, the economy that never touched a dollar. She watched a neighbor's children. The neighbor mended her coats. Bread went down one stairwell and came back as a jar of figs. Goods moved through the building in a current of favors. None of it cost cash. For families with no money to spare, the trade was a second income paid in kind. This barter ran through every tenement in the city. No money changed hands. That was the genius of it. Number 16, rendered lard, the fat that cooked 100 meals. When she could buy trimmings, she rendered the fat slow on the stove. The strutto kept for months in a crock and greased every pan, fried every egg. A few cents of fat replaced the oil she would have bought. Nothing on a piece of meat was waste. The fat was as useful as the flesh. The old country taught that every part of the pig had a purpose. The meat fed them once. The fat fed them for months. Number 15, the boarder's rent, the extra mouth that paid to be fed. A single man, newly arrived, needed a bed and a hot meal. She rented a corner of the rooms and a seat at the table for $3 a week. His rent often covered the family's own. He ate what they ate, and his money bought more of it. The rooms were tight. She made room because that bed was the difference between short and enough. Boarders filled the tenements. A spare cot was a small business. One more plate at the table. One more rent in the can. Number 14, the stretched meatball. 8 people fed from 11 cents of meat. A little ground meat went into a bowl with stale bread, an egg, garlic, and cheese. The bread tripled the meat. 4 meatballs became a dozen, each tender from the soaked crumb. 11 cents of meat became a platter for the family. Her children thought she cooked with a heavy hand. She cooked with bread. The polpetta of the poor was mostly bread by design. 11 cents of beef, a table full of dinner. Number 13, the communal sauce day. The whole building cooking as one. When the cheap bushels came in, the women pooled them. One great pot, one fire, one long day shared among many hands. Each family carried home jars from the common batch. $1 of tomatoes, split 5 ways, gave each family a winter of sauce for pennies. The stairwell smelled of tomatoes all day. The children ran between apartments, and no one was a stranger. The cooperative kitchen was older than any cookbook. They cooked as one building. They ate as many families. Number 12. The minestra of the week, the soup that swallowed every leftover. Nothing edible was thrown out. The end of the greens, the heel of bread, a handful of beans, the last of the gravy. All of it went into a pot at week's end. A penny's worth of scraps became a full meal. The children never knew the minestra was the week's remains. They knew it was warm, and there was enough. Peasant Italy built cucina povera on exactly this. Waste was the only true poverty. The week ended in a POT. Nothing was lost in it. Number 11, children's piecework at the table. The family that earned together after dark. Garment finishing, artificial flowers, nut shelling. The work came home in bundles. After supper, the family worked by lamplight, paid by the gross. Pennies an evening, but it added $1 a week. That dollar went straight to food. It was hard to watch small hands work so late. But the dollar fed them, pride did not. Home piecework ran through the tenements, paid by the piece. The kitchen was a tiny factory. The lamp burned late. The table earned its own bread. In 2019, economic historians went back into the records of immigrant New York. They expected malnutrition and chronic want. In the poorest Italian districts, they found something else. Children fed on bones, bread, and wild greens were often healthier than wealthier children raised on white bread and tinned meat. The mothers, with no nutrition science and no money, had built diets rich in vegetables, olive oil, and slow-cooked broth. The researchers had a name for it now. They called it the Mediterranean diet and wrote books about it. The mothers of Elizabeth Street had simply called it dinner. They were not feeding their children poverty food. They were feeding them the healthiest food in the city because it was cheap. Number 10. The day-old fish on Friday. The catch bought just before it turned. Late on Friday, the fishmonger marked down what would not keep to Saturday. A day from its best, not a day past safe. A fish that cost a dime fresh went for a nickel at dusk. She bought it, cooked it that evening, a meatless dinner for a few coins. She was not afraid of a fish that needed cooking tonight, only of paying double for the same supper. Friday was a fish day in every Catholic home. The price dropped at dusk. Her family ate at dark. Number 9. The hen on the fire escape. A hen house hidden 4 floors above the street. A hen or two lived in a crate on the fire escape, fed on scraps that cost nothing. They gave eggs nearly every day, eggs she did not buy at 40 cents a dozen, scraps in, breakfast out, tucked out of the landlord's sight. For a mother counting every egg, the hens were a daily miracle. Free protein on the iron railing. Rooftop poultry was common in the immigrant city, legal or not. The scraps fed the hen fed the children. Number 8. The cobbler's cardboard. The shoes that walked another winter. 8. The cobbler's cardboard. When a sole wore through, she did not buy new shoes. Stiff cardboard cut to fit slid inside, and the shoe lasted months. New children's shoes cost $1 she would rather spend on food. The children walked dry enough on cardboard. The saved dollar went onto their plates. The poor everywhere knew the cardboard trick. The meal was the point. Cardboard in the shoe, bread on the table. She knew which mattered. Number 7. The pasta water saved. The kitchen where even the water had a job. The starchy water from boiling macaroni did not go down the drain. It loosened the sauce, started the next day's soup, even washed the dishes. The gas to boil a pot cost a penny, and she got 3 uses from it. 1,000 small things were how the family stayed fed. The water was an ingredient, not refuse. Even the water worked twice. That was the whole philosophy. Number 6, la bella figura, the art of looking comfortable while spending almost nothing. The family stepped out on Sunday in pressed, mended clothes, well-fed and calm. The neighbors saw prosperity. They did not see the bones in the broth, the cardboard in the shoes. The good figure was a performance she directed. Pride was not vanity. It was armor that kept the family respectable while the budget bled. La bella figura ran through all of Italian life. The family that looked like it lived on $20 a week ran on 10. The world saw plenty. The kitchen knew the truth. Number 5, the Mutual Aid Society. The insurance the poor built for themselves. The family paid small dues to the Paesani Society, pennies a week. When illness, death, or a lost job struck, the society paid out. A doctor covered. A funeral met. A family kept fed through a stretch that would have sunk it alone. For a mother, it meant one fewer disaster could starve the children. The village stood behind one family's worst week. Hundreds of these societies ran through immigrant New York, the welfare state before there was one. Many hands paid the dues. One family survived the blow. Number 4, the rotating credit pool, La Casa. It was the bank the women ran among themselves. 10 women each put in $1 a week. Each week one took the whole pot, $50 at once. No interest, no bank, no papers, only trust and turns. When her turn came, a year of savings arrived at once, enough for a stove or a season of food. It let a poor woman hold real money once a year without borrowing. The pool was her credit and her discipline both. Immigrant communities the world over ran these pools. Trust was the only ledger. She saved a little each week. She received a fortune in turn. Number 3, buying the whole town. The market route only she could walk. She knew which cart sold the cheapest greens, which grocer cut the price on flour, which butcher gave the bones. She walked the route, basket on her arm, assembling dinner from 6 streets. An hour of walking saved $1 a week. She did not shop a store. She shopped a neighborhood and missed nothing. The open-air markets rewarded the woman who knew them block by block. 1 basket, 6 streets, a week of meals bought right. Number 2, the quiet gap, feeding the family for less than anyone believed possible. She let the world think the household cost what households cost, and never corrected the figure. In truth, she fed 8 for what others spent on 4. The gap between what people assumed and what she spent was the family's slow fortune. Year after year, that gap bought a future, a few dollars saved that became a cushion, then a start. Holding back even $1 a week built $50 a year of invisible margin. It bought the family its footing. They thought she spent everything. The difference built everything. Number 1, feed the children first. The simplest rule on this list, and the one she never broke. Before her own plate, before the money sent home, before any comfort for herself. The children ate first, and they ate enough. Some weeks the whole table had 30 cents to its name. They still ate first. If anyone went without, it was the mother, and no one was allowed to notice. It was not strategy. It was the reason for every other trick on this list. The bones, the bread, the hens, the gap, all of it served this rule. The mothers of the old country had lived by it through famine and war. It crossed the ocean intact, not what she earned. what her children ate before the world could take it. None of these tricks required money these mothers did not already hold. They required attention. They required a woman willing to look at an empty larder and refuse to be beaten by it. The men laid the brick and carried the hod, and we remember them as the providers. But the wage was only half the family. The other half lived in a coffee can and a pot of bones, a hen on the fire escape, a soup that wasted nothing. These women fed children on the wages of one in the most expensive city on earth, without rights, without credit, without thanks, and without ever letting the world see how. We inherited their recipes and lost their arithmetic. We learned to call cheap food shameful and convenience progress. They knew better. They knew a fed child is the only fortune that matters. And they built it quietly in kitchens where no one was watching.